Hermit met a maiden and asked her, "What will you be when you enter the next life?" The maiden answered, "I do not know if I will have a next life." When that hermit was reborn as a young maiden, she searched for the woman that she remembered, but this maiden had been reborn as a snail, and the young maiden searched endlessly. To begin, let us consider a more basic form of life. The plants of this planet actually resonate at higher frequencies than animal bodies. They operate over longer distances of time. One thing to notice about plants is that they do not produce waste. They uptake dirt from the ground and restructure it into fruit. This fruit grows on the outside of the plant body, where it goes to rot outside of the tree. Conversely, mammals are treated as if they were the egg. The female incubates her children inside her body and dies if it is not passed correctly through the waste port. This causes a terrible waste of efficiency that weakens the species. When our immune system fights germs, it does not consider how to retool and recompose the bacteria for future use. Instead, the dead and live bacteria are dumped into the lower intestinal tract, which then becomes septic. This occurs after the food has been masticated by all sorts of heavy-duty acids and restriction enzymes. The result is gross and unsanitary and leads to aging and disease. Applying what we know from the way plant life is structured and how to take instructions and apply it to the next thing. If the immune systems and the digestive systems were meant to make specific things out of food, then rather than ejecting the food and then requiring more food, we animals would need far less food if we could incorporate it more. The good and healthy food enters the animal body, where it is restructured into a nutritious biofilm. When it enters the blood, it circulates in the blood until it can be distributed throughout the body as muscles, hair, skin, nails, milk, etc., until it is shed from the body as waste. These animals would have ending port, but they, like plants, do not defecate. And like plants, the seeds of animals are wet, requiring mostly watery environments and cannot maintain themselves without water. And like plants, the pollen of animals cannot enter a state of inertness, and will die if frozen incorrectly or devoid of water, or some wet equivalent wetness. However, there is no plant that does not require water to function, just as surely as the living trunk of a tree seems completely dry. That tree will stop functioning and not start again if left without water. While it is possible to have automation at a cellular level, it is difficult to replicate all stages of growth without presence of a fluid medium. This leads to the question of why specifically animals have developed in this specific way, and why plants have developed in that specific other way, and what is the minimum amount of water required to satisfy a theoretical life form which would require the minimum amount of water at any time in its life. Turning the concept of the animal immune, digestive, reproductive systems on its head again, in comparison to the plant world systems, we notice that the animal system here is turned in its head. Like plants, animals would produce seeds or pollen out of their hair, and when 2 women or more enter their hairs into the soil, the seeds germinate into an egg that will produce the animal body. Preferably, their shells will be plastic and clear and the interior would be dry. If the animal is born underwater, may it quickly learn to breathe water or swim. Once the animal tears out of its soft shell, it will be exposed fully to the elements. If it is not born in a nursery, after its instincts are developed and it has avoided predators, it may enter a civilization that it discovers. Also, other animals that emulate humans may form cities and make technologies. Part 2, respiration. With the ability to produce seeds out of their fur and hair, animals will no longer require their current reproductive systems. This does not spell extinction for the uterus. Instead of expanding to several times its size to serve a function so stressful to females, the uterus will have a rifled channel leading into the stomach. This serves as a completion of the respiratory/digestive systems. Pure air flows through the entire body through this channel. This respiratory system will unlock meditation ability and concentration skills never before seen by unifying all the organs of the body. Part 3, the reticulated intestinal tract. As food is being converted into bile, it travels through the reticulated intestinal tract, where food that is harder to digest passes through more slowly and more often, and digestible matter is passed into the large intestines. Blood turns redder as digestion completes, which may take several days. Water is extracted and bile becomes non-perishable. It remains until it falls into the intestinal microvilli, where it is mixed with water and absorbed into the blood, after which it may either be returned to the stomach, excreted as hair, nails, skin, pollen, or milk, or excreted as feces. If the unperishable becomes perishable, an immune system response triggers the production of immune cells and digestive enzymes. The food may be pushed into the large intestines, where it may then be excreted as feces. This indicates a problematic condition which may require medical attention, but tends to disappear after a few days. Part 4, oxygenated energy transfer systems. The chlorophyll inside magnesium blood cells absorb latent energy entering through the eyes, mostly hair, nails, and skin, and emit excess light into their surroundings. This blood is blue. When combined with red iron blood, it becomes purpose, and the difference in electronic potential accelerates the rates of certain respiratory processes. Blood turns red in between meals, which could be any time, spanning months to years. When nutrition is depleted from the intestines, gastric processes begin, and the veins begin to secrete plant photochemicals. Right after food is consumed, this secretion accelerated according to how much food was consumed. This production slows down after sufficient energy has been restored to the intestines. If this does not happen within a few days or weeks, the body metabolizes iron blood and produces blue blood. These beings are fully reliable on energy from chloroplast cells and have very slow metabolisms. Some animals may produce green, yellow, or black variants of this blood under certain conditions. Implications of the new digestive systems. Part 1, infancy. If animal gestation was ever realized in the way that plants produce their offspring from out of their seeds, an animal of any kind may sprout out of its seeds at any time that is in accordance with their biology. For instance, if a seed had taken root in winter soil and did not preserve itself through winter until the weather became warm and did not freeze to death while the animal was still growing, and the animal had managed to hatch from that seed, all animals grown in the aforementioned way must then be full capable of knowing and understanding its present state despite its previous state, despite whether it was awake before it was born or not, and struggle to find warmth or cope with it, cold. In this case of sophisticated and civilized animals, some of them may be born in the wild and, after mastering survival skill, they may choose to go into cities, or any combination of this event. Part 2, the several different types of mothers. 1. Emma, your birth mother. This could also be your place, time, or circumstance of birth. 2. Gamma, they who inseminated your birth mother, or provided the seeds for your germination, in physicality, spirituality, or in business. 3. Oma, your God. The Oma is not what you think of as God, but who would be your God at any present moment. Your sense of responsibility, governance, or purpose. 4. Your muse. Your source of ingenuity or drive, the transport from one place to another. Part 3, nursing. If for any reason the parents cannot raise or grow children, desert care, heavy work, home life, non-civilized animals may be able to submit their children to a nursery and still keep track of them. The nursery would be like a boarding school, and after all resources including education available to it can be implemented. Nurseries may also be in charge of growing children of various kinds with pairs of people already living there. In this type of system, all prime resources are accounted for. This type of economy is capable of providing exactly the amount of prime resource needed to suit various tasks. For species that are capable of inbreeding, such facilities are more susceptible to inbreeding. Part 4, domestics. There are many differences that are encountered here. There are many people suffering from genetic mutations, but certainly not half of all the populations of animals. Exploitation, as such, is a deplorable invitation of sickness and disease. Systems of marriage are also seen as systems of exploitation and servitude. When they work and attend the various educational ceremonies, lectures, course, etc., they earn merit. Merits increase their level of credential. Proof of work provides access to their various resources. For plants, plant spores are an important way for plants to share information and nutrition with other plants. This includes reproductive spores. Although plant spores are inherent in our current respiratory systems, the new lung system will act more as part of the digestive tract, digesting pollen as it is conveyed into the stomach. Some pollen also photosynthesize as they grow on the plant, or fly, fill the air. In digestion, the energy from electron excitation in these pollen grains are stored in the intestines. This same process also works for the uterus, which no longer stores animal pollen for gestation purposes. This means that any pollen entered into the uterus will be transferred to the stomach for digestion if it is not excreted. Part 5, schooling. Most of growth occurs at puberty, which for us starts at age 12. Higher level functions such as alternate perceptions, empathy, and collectivism are implemented. At this age, children are expected to be able to operate in a regular adult work environment. This may include duties such as farming, tool making, but maybe not heavy industry such as trucking, welding, braiding, etc. Certain classes are expected to perform their multiple tasks where necessary, at the workplace or place of business. There are sections for teachers to teach and monitor students during their given class times, and their managers supervise their work during that time. Higher level education is done at a university, which sometimes is part of a nursery, 12 years of which earn the diploma of higher learning, which allows them entry into whatever fields that diploma is useful for. Schooling usually continues well into adulthood, and workers are not expected to perform the same tasks all the time. Instead, their credential allows them time slots for work or school that they can apply for at that institution. The university, although usually more exacting than regular school time, takes time away from useful jobs for the sake of personal investment. It produces intellectuals at the cost of actual productivity. The earliest entry date for university is decided by that country. To teach at a university requires usually 20 years of university study. University study for children may begin as early as age 8, but this happens usually with the girls of intellectuals. The time is now 6 p.m.